Okay, I'm live. Uh, just to let you know, I changed my background up a little bit, and I gotta get out of the way. Okay, so I got this image today. Actually, I use my wife's phone because my camera on my phone sucks. So I got this image today. I've been wanting to get for like the last year of this beautiful red-tailed hawk right here, and the picture is pretty clear, but it doesn't do it any justice. This is a big fucking bird. Not as big as an eagle, but this is a big hawk right here, and it's beautiful. So I added it to my background. Anyways, enough of that. Um, but he'll be sitting on my shoulder here for a while. These birds eat anything. Trust me, anything. Chickens, cats, small dogs, anything. Geese. These things are huge and they'll take out anything. The only thing that they're not going to eat is an eagle. Okay, so what are we doing? We are going to go to the tropics and give you an update on Lee and my little soapbox on this Escapee Danilo Cavalcante. So let's play my intro and I'll be right back. Okay, so um, things are probably going to get a little wet around here, even though they've been wet pretty much all summer long. But we're going to go to the maps here pretty quickly. So let me do that. So as you can see over here, this is the United States now. We're starting to get warnings, watches, all of this stuff here, and definitely, high sea stuff. Um, and we'll go to the plots here pretty soon, but you get warnings now all up and down the down East Maine coast. You have flash flood warnings, hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings, high surf warnings, gale watch, all of that. All of that's mixed up into here. And we have special weather announcements here. Um, so we got a tropical storm watch here in New Hampshire. Vermont's out of this here. They might get a little bit of wind, but not a lot. High surf for sure. Um, and there's a hurricane watch here for down East Maine. Um, we'll go back now that it's getting closer to the coast here. So we have a hurricane watch for basically almost all of the coast of Maine here, from Bar Harbor all the way down to Portland. The rip current statement here, that's up and down the whole entire, pretty much from North Carolina on up. Um, okay, so this is for the coastline here for New Hampshire and most of Maine, and you got a mix of sun and clouds and drier conditions. It's going to be beautiful today. And you got tropical storm watches, riptide statements. Let's go here. Okay, so tropical storm watch remains in effect. This is for Casco Bay, coastal waters, Cape Elizabeth, Maine, the Merrimack River. I believe that's in New Hampshire, Massachusetts out. Um, Winds 25 to 35 knots with gusts up to 50 knots. So that's pretty close to hurricane strength there. Seas 14 to 19 feet. That's definitely in Maine. I lost my cursor again. There she is. Um, very strong winds with cause hazardous seas and damage to vessels or reduced visibility. So we'll go take a look at the Atlantic coast. Atlantic Ocean, I mean, sorry. So we have, this is the Atlantic Ocean here. This is going to be Nigel probably today. Um, but you see, we have, this is pretty much almost a tropical storm at this point, or depression for sure. Um, but this is going to be the next storm to watch here, and it's going to probably be named Nigel, and there's another one coming off. Uh, they seem to be coming off the southern African coast, kind of south of the Cape Verde Islands. So when they come off the south end here, that's the ones to watch. When they're more northern, then they usually do what Margot did and head out to sea. So Margot's up here. Um, Still a minimal hurricane, 75-mile-per-hour winds, 979 pressure reading. So that's going up a little bit from where it was yesterday. And it's basically just sitting here. This is going to basically just do a dance over here in the ocean for a few days. So we'll keep an eye on that. And here's Lee. Here's the a big one here, and the winds are down, and they will come down now because it's probably moving north. So we have winds now at 100 miles per hour. Central pressure is at 953, so that's up from yesterday. And if you're plotting at home, these are the plots here: 29.1 north, 68.1 west. Basically in this parallel here, and it's going to be in this parallel all the way up until it gets to about, you know, due east of New Jersey here. um, and it's not moving a ton right now. 9 miles per hour. That's a little bit below average for these things, but it should pick up some speed once it starts. You know, this is a big storm. We'll take a look at it. All right, so we're going to go here. So let's take a look at the satellite. And I think we can get a pretty good idea of what's going on here with this one. So there's Lee here. This is breaking apart here. This is not as symmetrical as it was yesterday. This is all of the convection is basically on the eastern side of it. And it's going to do this. When it starts to move north here, it's going to really basically stay a minimal hurricane, maybe a little bit stronger than that as it moves up the coast here. But you can see this convection here is, it doesn't look like that buzzsaw that you want to see, because it's starting to get over a little bit cooler water here. And this front here that came across the East Coast yesterday is starting to add some shear to this here. And this front is going to help this storm here provide a path for it to escape to the north. This front here is just kind of ripping apart the upper level here. And there's the cause of it right there. But I mean, for storms to be over here, it actually looks pretty good. And it's getting into these waters here where Franklin was a couple weeks ago. So the water in here has been upwelled so much that it's not, but we can take a look at that. But I just want to get the water vapor here. So here's the water vapor imagery here, and you can see this spin here, right? This is going to cause this to try to push Lee out before it gets too close to the coast here. So but you can see the northern part of this system here is getting sheared quite a bit from this here. But I mean, it's still, you know, for it to be out in here, it still looks pretty decent. But once it's, like I said, once it starts moving north, it's going to lose its consistency, so to speak. So let's go down. I want to go down lower here because I want to see where the dry air is. So you're seeing some of this dry air just get caught up into the system here. It's trying really hard to fight this stuff off here, but there's some dry air here, dry air here. And what the dry air does is it kind of chokes this system off from really intensifying. So as long as this stuff stays in here, this storm will not intensify. But, you know, you got the jet stream here, the Gulf Stream here. So I just think it's going to stay way too east of that to really affect this. If it was to hug the coast here, then it might have a chance to re-strengthen a little bit. But all right, so let's I want to check sea surface temperatures here. So here's your sea surface temperatures here, and you can see, I'll stop this here. So you can see here, you know, when it's in this area here, here's Africa here, here's Florida, the coastline. These waters are just simply boiling hot almost. But once you start getting into here, where our buddy is Lee, it's going to start getting into much cooler water, and obviously not as cool as up here in the Northeast and the Canadian Maritimes here, but Franklin did a really good job here of upwelling this water here just enough to cool it down a little bit here. So you're seeing it start to take a northern turn here, and that's when it's going to start getting into cooler waters, and that's what's going to cause weakening. And just since we're here, we'll check the anomaly loop. So as you can see, there's really no anomalies in here. It's not warmer, not cooler. This is a little here, but this is what it's going to be facing once it starts to lift north, is this cooler water temperature here. Because Franklin was out here for a good week, just sitting out here while Adelia was pounding Florida. It was still out here. So that's what caused this water here to cool down. And Nigel's going to have the same problem when it enters into this zone here to where Lee was sitting, and you'll see cooler temperatures there, right? So if the storm systems stay in one area for a long period of time, it just cools the water off down below. You know, it goes from like 85, 88 temperature down to like 80s, maybe sometimes even back to more normal temperatures, which is about 78. And these systems need this warm moisture to really intensify. And by the time the storm gets up into the Maritimes here, it's going to be basically extra tropical, which means it's going to lose its tropical characteristics to the point where it's going to become basically more like a just an area of low pressure. All right, so let's go back and we're going to go to see if we get the latest on the forecasts here. All right, so here's the 7-day. So this has been pretty consistent over the last couple of days here. Here's Margot here. This is Nigel's path. They already got it plotted here. But this here has been pretty consistent for the last couple of days. So this is the one we're going to go by. So it's basically going to come up here, take it. I hate my computer. I just do. So it's basically going to make landfall right into, I think this is the Bay of Fungo here. Bay of Fundy, sorry. I've been pronouncing that wrong the entire time. So let me get out of here for a second and then we'll go. So this is where this storm is pretty much going to. This Bar Harbor. Bar Harbor is a great place. I love Bar Harbor, Maine. The seafood out in here is just absolutely amazing. There's a little fort here. I wonder if I can see Pompton Beach. That's really cool. Right here. So this is where that fort is. There it is. This is an old, I believe this is old Navy barracks here. And this place, if you're ever up here, this place is cool to check out. I think they've been in there a couple times doing some ghost hunting. But this place is just, go there in the summer because it's really cold to go there in the winter. It's really cool because they used to have cannons out the back side. I'm not sure if they still do, but this is one of those old barracks. And it's pretty cool to walk through here because it's pretty safe. You know, it's built well. Yeah, there's the cannons right there, I think. And this beach around it is, you know, in the summertime, dead of summer, you know, like end of July, early August. You probably still can't go in the water because it would be too cold, but it's just, if you go in June or September, it's going to be absolutely freezing through here. But it's pretty cool. Love this place. And like I said, if you, you know, like seafood, Maine's the place to be. So that's that. Let's go back here. Where the hell was I? Fort. Nope, I was at Bay of. So this is where a storm's going to set up. Bar Harbor, right in through this sound here, the Bay of Fundy here. Um, and it's going to push to the east. So it's going to come in and kind of go like this. So um, Maine, coastal Maine, Portland, maybe even two. But on the east side of this here is when it's really going to get the surge. But this won't be a hurricane when it gets up here. It'll be, I don't know, a very probably strong tropical storm. But the problem with tropical storms is they start to unravel. So all of the feeder bands and outer bands can go way up and extend out from the center quite a bit. So even if the center of the storm is going to come in like this, you may get some, you know, feeder bands that come into Nova Scotia, maybe even as far away as Port Hawkesbury. And then on the other side of that, you're going to get a ton of rain. So Bangor, Waterville, Augusta, and you might get some, depending on how far that cone is and how much this bobbles west or east. Um, you might get some pretty decent winds here along the entire coastline. So, all right, let's go to back here. Whoops, I can do that again. All right, so let's get out of this. I mean, I don't want to say the threat of tornado is completely non-existent in this, but I'd be shocked if you got any tornadoes up in here, uh, which is normal in most of these systems. But once they start to lose their tropical characteristics, that be shocked to see a tornado up there. I really would, but not impossible. Definitely not impossible. Probable, probably not. Okay, so here we go with the chart again. I'll do the ensemble too because this is the GFS. So right in here, I did it again. Uh, so right here, um, if you're following this parallel here, it's going to basically stay inside, almost like a curveball in this parallel. And unfortunately for these folks here, it's going to basically tuck right into this Bay of Fundy. We're right there. So around the east side of this here is going to be where all the surge comes from and all the water. And like I said, depending, we're going to check out the see if they did any more reconnaissance for this here, some wind speeds, but you can see tropical storm force winds a good 200 miles out from this center here. So, and the tall pines around here, even a 35, 40 mile an hour winds with the leaves on the trees here still, and since we've gotten so much rain over the past few weeks, these tall pines will just snap like nobody's business. So the 60, 70 mile an hour wind right now would just be devastating to these pine trees. All right, so let's go back. I want to go to okay, so we're going to do the ensemble now. This is everybody. And you still have some of these, pushing this storm more west than east. But the general consensus now has been pretty steady here. It's on the right side of this spaghetti map here. So we'll keep it going. I mean, there's a few here, but I don't know if those are accurate. But here's basically the center line. So any type of movement to the left or right of this thing could make a huge difference in what happens here. Because if this hits more into upper New Hampshire, up in the North Country, it could really be devastating, because this will have a much bigger impact over here than it will up into the Bay of Fundy here, because we've already gotten torrential downpours this year up here, and the leaves are still pretty heavy, so it won't take much to knock some of these trees down, that's for sure. So there you go. All right, so I'll go back to so this is their cone of probability here, and these are the watches and warnings here. Those are warnings here, watches here. So you got right until about 2 a.m. Saturday. And then it'll start to shift more from a hurricane to a regular tropical storm. And that's due east, due east basically from, I think that's York, Maine, right there. And this cone, like I said, it looked like this for like 3 or 4 days. It looked really uncertain to where this was going to go. But now I think they got a pretty good scope on this whole system here. So it looks like it's going to miss most of the United States coast and brush Maine and just pour water into the Canadian Maritimes here, Bay of Fundy. And of course, Bermuda is basically sitting duck here. They're going to get some pretty strong winds too and surf. So let's go here. This is the arrival time of winds here. So this, if you see this here, this is the center here. And this is what the problem is, right? You have, once it gets up into here, this storm is going to get much bigger and broader in scope. So, 200, 300 miles out from the center, either way, east or west, you're going to get tropical storm winds probably, and even higher winds probably the closer you get to where this is going to hit. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Cape Cod in Massachusetts gets gusts sometimes of 60, 70-mile-per-hour winds. A little bit less when you get to New Hampshire, but Massachusetts seems to always get the high wind from these. Uh, but the majority of this storm is going to really basically pound into here, into the Bay of Fundy. That's where the surge is going to be. That's where the rain's going to be. Um, because of this front that's dropping. This front is going to really set up shop here and prevent this storm from taking that left that everybody thought it was going to take. Whoops. So basically we have tropical storm conditions, heavy rainfall, and high surf are beginning to impact Bermuda, and a tropical storm warning is in effect for the island. So they got tropical storm watch warnings up in Bermuda here. The peak surge here, 2 to 4 feet here in Chatham, Provincetown, Nantucket, 1 to 3 feet up here to the border of Canada, and nobody cares about Canada over here. So you got 1 to 3 feet seas here, and up to 4 feet around Provincetown and Cape Cod Bay, pretty much, because this water is going to come in here and just circulate. This is going to be the target for the United States, anyways. All right, so let's see if we can get some wind. I gotta figure out how to find this again. I did it. Okay, so this is the latest. So you got wind speeds. Okay, so there is the storm, right? This is the center. They do the kind of like a pie chart here, so you can know which sector you're in. And this is the scale here. 50 miles out, 100 miles out, 150. So, 300 miles out, you're still getting tropical storm force winds here. And that's all on the east side. There's nothing on the west side at all. 48, 42, and then it really tails off once you get. Okay, let's see what's going on in the center. Nothing there. See, there's nothing on the western side at all. It's all here on the eastern side. There's your 103, so that's about 115 probably gusts. Let's see if we can go in here more. Center. Yeah, so everywhere on the eastern side till you get to about 100 miles out, because this is hurricane force winds here, 78. Even that, that's probably a hurricane force wind there. And this eastern side, this is going to be basically what wraps around Canada. Whoops. So there you go. Right out here in this quadrant here, you got almost 100-mile-per-hour winds here. So that's really strange. They picked up a hurricane force wind here. Right there, they got a. So it's still pretty good. Um, it definitely doesn't look like it looked like yesterday. This is where all that dry air was here. But with this wind field is going to increase quite a bit when it gets moving north here. So that's that. I do want to take a look at. There's nothing here. Whoops. So this is the radar right now, the entire country. So you got some storms brewing down here in Texas, again, Oklahoma. Um, this is the system here that's just moving off the coast of New England right now, all the way down to pretty much Georgia, draping down across. This will move out. Once this lifts, this storm is really going to pick up speed here. Okay, so this is valid until tomorrow. here's the lee here. And then here's this front here. That's going to kind of push this storm that way. High pressure. This will be a goner. This tail end of this here is going to lift this way. So we're thankful for these fronts, because that's normally what happens. These systems come in here and they either take a left or a right, and this one's going to follow suit, but it's going to really sock Nova Scotia here and parts of down east Maine here. So let's go to a professional, because I am not that at all. We'll go to it's so weird how you know. All right, let's share this. We'll run this for a little while and then move on to other shit.
100 miles per hour as of the latest advisory. It's moving northward at about 9 miles per hour, and that air pressure is sitting at...
See, I don't go by these things here unless it's a 5 or a 4, because the problem I've always had with the Saffir-Simpson scale is, I think people have become accustomed to hurricanes these days, and people just, shake off like a category 1, category 2 tropical storm. Everybody pays attention to when it gets to like category 4, category 5. But I'll tell you something. Category 1s, category 2s, even tropical storms. I mean, I think we all remember Harvey down there in Texas a few years ago. They can do some serious damage, and especially when it comes to rain, flooding, torrential rain, tornadoes, all of that stuff. So I go by the wind speeds and the actual data. The categories, unless it's going to be a 4 or a 5 like Adelia was, then I'll start mentioning the ferocity of the storm itself. But I've seen people die in tropical storms. It happens all the time because people think it's just a tropical storm. It's not going to be anything, but they can really kill people.
At about 953 millibars here. We are fairly confident that Lee is going to continue to move more northward here, and that is the reason why we've already started to see hurricane watches as well as tropical storm watches issued for not only Connecticut but also Massachusetts. Notice that all of those warnings are primarily along the coastline here, because that is where we do anticipate seeing some of the worst weather here. Now, Britta, we're expecting things to go downhill sometime tomorrow afternoon into the evening and last pretty much through the overnight hours.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those time frames where you just want to hunker down. This is not a storm that people are going to...
So you got all this convection. We were just in the Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance stuff, and this is where we were picking up most of the winds here to the northwest of this, northwest of the eye wall. There's your eye there. And then definitely on the eastern side, right in this area here. And then these tropical storm force winds go all the way out to these outer rain bands here. But once this starts to lift north, these wind fields are going to increase this way because it's going to elongate more.
Leave their homes and pack up and have to push inland. This is a type of storm that you want to be prepared to.
This is going to be a massive storm as far as its overall size.
stay at home and ride out some really nasty conditions. And we're probably going to see a lot of power loss. Right now, the wave heights are pretty impressive. I wish we had a buoy at the center. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get a sail drone observation after the storm. I'm not sure exactly where the sail drones are positioned at this time. That's data that we get after a hurricane passes through from NOAA. But right now, the buoys that are registering are showing 17-foot waves. That exact buoy, by the way, 41049, also has a wind gust of 36 miles per hour. You can tell the difference here, right? Because Hurricane Lee has 100-mile-per-hour winds. So we're talking about fringe impacts, and the waves are already that big.
And over in Bermuda, Hamilton already seeing sustained winds at 31 miles per hour. And just to the west of there, that buoy, 41048, already seeing those gusty.
So this is out, far. This is 100 miles out, 200 miles out from the system itself.
Winds as well here. So it's important to note that this track is going to continue to wobble here, back and forward here. So because of that, we do anticipate seeing this wind.
Even Cape Hatteras is going to see some really good swells here from this, wave action here.
Field further expand here and really hit some high populated areas, including those of you in the Boston area and just to the north of there up in the Portland area. Now, Maine has about 70 miles of coastline that's made up of not only sand and also cobble as well. About half of that is in the southern part of the state. I think Saco Beach, that's going to be an area that we're going to have to watch here because that's just south of Portland there, and that usually sees some of the worst beach erosion throughout the year.
Yeah, and even with, a diversion of the track, this shift that we've seen to the east, the beach erosion is still going to be an impact. That doesn't change at all. I mean, you're talking about a large wind field, a lot of swell and power locked up with this storm, and that's going to eat away out of our beach, whether we have a landfall in Canada or whether we have one in Maine.
And freaking tie down your boats, for God's sakes. It doesn't take a lot. You always see some idiot that forgot to tie his boat down, and it just ends up in somebody's backyard.
Now, looking at the impacts from this storm, people are taking the warnings. We had boats going out of the water in New London, Connecticut. That's a good idea because, again, even with a shift in the track, and even if we have a wobble that pushes it farther towards the west or the east, the coastal impacts are going to remain the same.
So here's that front that moved through late yesterday. I mean, it was pouring here about 1 o'clock in the afternoon yesterday. So that just basically, Massachusetts got pounded by this here. So they got flood warnings down there just from this storm here. So, it's already pretty soggy in here. So this is a good thing that this is going to take a right here, not a left.
Same. We are still going to have a lot of energy pushing some waves into inlet areas. And that's always worst case scenario when you're talking about surge and sloshing water. And so taking the boats out is a good idea. There's a look at the current conditions where we have rain that is already kind of stretching over Cape Cod. So Providence down
this front got rid of that nice, warm, mucky air that was in here for the last 2 weeks, and we're sorry to see it go. It was just wonderful, and now it's back to dry, miserable, lower temperature. It'll be a nice day today, though. High 70s probably.
This morning, waking up to some rain. Those are really the only areas dealing with rain today.
Did I get struck again?
Part of the issue is here, Jason, is that as the storm passes by, of course, naturally, the wind direction will change, and that means that some of the water will get caught up in the Cape. And it's one of those storm fronts that the water kind of gets stuck, and so you end up with this big...
See, the problem is, Florida gets really hit hard. Florida gets, really, really intense hurricanes. Cat 3s, Cat 4s, sometimes Cat 5s, but we don't. We get up here, you're lucky to get Cat 1, Cat 2. I think the storm of 38 was, they're saying it was like a Category 3. I doubt that. Highly doubt that. It's just way too cold up here for these waters to produce a Cat 3 hurricane. But with that said, uh, this area floods quickly, especially if you've already had rainstorms on the ground. And these trees up here, the pine trees, just get devastated with a 75, 80 mile per hour wind. So the destruction up here can be the same, even if it's a smaller Cat 1 hurricane.
Salad bowl that the water's going side to side, and as the wind shifts, it moves to a different part of the coastline, and it literally gets stuck into Cape Cod.
I like to compare it to a blender, right? I mean, if you're making a
All right, let's get out of here before I get struck again. Let's go. I want to go to. I've already been here 51 freaking minutes. All right, so we're going to cover this. That's 50 minutes. I'm not watching that one. All right, so we'll play this one here. This is some CNN. We have this guy here, this escaped so this guy was caught yesterday, finally. He was on the run for 2 weeks, pretty much. And the strange thing is, they're like puffing out their chest with this capture, really proud of themselves that they got this guy. But I don't know if they should be giving out too many medals of honor with this thing. I mean, I know it's tough to catch these people, and the guy probably shouldn't have been able to escape in the first place, but they have all of the technology in the freaking world. Heat-seeking drones, the FBI, U.S. Marshals, tactical teams, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of officers, perimeters. This guy was able to escape capture with all of that shit for 2 weeks. So I don't know if I'd be bragging about that. I really don't. But they got him. I'll give them credit. They got him, and great. But could you imagine if this guy was a terrorist? I hate to use that word, but this guy could have taken out a lot of people.
Robert Clark, a supervisory deputy of the U.S. Marshals Service. He has been involved in this manhunt since the very beginning.
Law enforcement does such a great job catching these criminals, putting them in jail, going through courts and trials, finally locking him up, and then he just literally escapes when no one's watching, and is out for 2 weeks. They need to get better at this, period. This is the third escapee in Pennsylvania in the last year, the third one.
He was at the command post today, helping to oversee the team that captured Cavalcante, and he also spoke to Cavalcante today. So I very much appreciate your time, Deputy. Let me just start. Welcome back. I mean, the dramatic capture, helicopter, the lightning storm, the police dog, 20 tactical officers.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I usually give law enforcement credit, and they deserve credit. I mean, it's not easy catching these people, especially when they're, not supposed to be out of prison in the first place. But they need to get better at this shit, whether they need more money, more funding, more technology, whatever. They just need. I mean, this could have gone a lot worse than it did. This guy could have unalived a lot of people.
Can you tell me about the moment that you knew you had him?
Well, thank you for having me again, Aaron. When the call came in over the radio, everyone was just elated. It was a 2-week coalition of law enforcement officers that had come together for the common cause of bringing a violent fugitive into custody. and everybody was relieved.
Again, they brought him into custody again.
It's been a roller coaster ride the past couple of weeks.
I can only imagine.
And to be honest with you, I think this guy just ran out of gas. I mean, look at him. I mean, at this point, he's probably thankful to be captured because he's probably got tick bites all over him. He's probably got mosquito bites. You know, he's probably got no blood left. So,
And I know, you had to be terrified yourself that something horrible could happen. It could end horribly, or something could happen to somebody. That now you have him in custody. We are hearing that authorities conducted a 4-hour interview today with Cavalcante. You also personally spoke with him. What did you learn?
So an interview was conducted with Cavalcante. Deputy
the U.S. Marshals are awesome. They usually eventually get the guy. But I'll be the first person to tell you they need more funding, they need more money, need more training. But usually
US
they'll get him
Marshals,
eventually.
Pennsylvania State Police, and county detectives interviewed him. I personally was not present for the interview, but I can tell you what was said, which was relayed to me from our deputy marshals. So essentially, everything we thought about Cavalcante and his flight was true. He was a desperate man. He was actively avoiding apprehension. And shortly after he
This guy must stink to high heaven. Good Lord.
escaped from the prison, he had hunkered down in an area that was very, very secluded, very, very wooded. And he didn't move for the first couple of days, he said. He survived on a watermelon that he found at a farm. He drank stream water. He was hiding his fecal matter under leaves and foliage so that law enforcement couldn't track him. He was a desperate man. He also described the backpack that he obtained was obtained early in his flight. He had taken it from a residence, and that's where he obtained a razor. I know a lot of people have talked about how did he get so clean shaven? Did somebody assist him? Well, quite simply, that razor was in the backpack. So he answered a lot of questions for us. And he also described an increasing amount of law enforcement every day. And that goes for both perimeters. And ultimately, that's why he decided to leave the Longwood Gardens area. He said that on numerous occasions, 3 times he described that law enforcement officials almost stepped on him within
3
7 or 8
times.
yards.
They almost stepped on him. This guy stole a van, right?
Times. But that just proves to you how thick the vegetation and the foliage was. It was just an immense area to search. I don't think the public understands how hard it was in extreme heat and extreme conditions to.
You know, I get it. It's hard. It's not easy. You could just walk out in the woods here right now and get lost completely because there's so much foliage. It's been raining all summer long here, and you can literally stay in the woods for days and days and days and die from mosquito bites and tick bites. But, you know, they have helicopters, they have a lot of different tools. They have, you know, not knocking law enforcement, I'm just saying somehow they got him. That's all that's important.
Locate him.
So, so much to follow up with you here, Deputy Clark, but this issue with the razor, when you're saying how did people wondering how he shaved. So you're literally saying it was just luck that he finds a backpack and there's a razor in the backpack, that was just luck.
You can't make it up, Aaron. We specifically asked him that question. How did he get clean shaven? And he said there was one in the razor in the backpack.
And you're going to trust this guy? Really? Okay. Sure.
That he took. We still don't know the exact place where he took that backpack, nor do we know the exact location that he took the Eagle sweatshirt as well.
Right. Okay. So you're still not exactly sure, but obviously it sounds like he's admitting he was going in people's homes, whether they were unlocked or there, but he was stealing stuff when he could.
Yes, he was. He actually said that he was going to steal stuff where there was opportunity. He was a desperate man that was going day to day in order just to survive. An interesting statement he said also was that his end game.
For those people that don't have Ring doorbells, or I highly recommend something, because this whole place is going freaking nuts and you can't trust anybody anymore. So, highly recommend that.
Was to carjack somebody and to head north up to Canada. And he intended to do that in the next 24 hours. He said the law enforcement presence where he was immense, and that he felt that he needed to leave. He had seen the aerial assets we were using. He had seen the helicopters. So that's why he held on to that rifle for so long.
And did he, you said that he survived on stream water and watermelon. Did you talk about anything else about how he was able to obtain food?
No, it was just the watermelon, the stream water. We didn't get too much into what else he was eating, but we were interested in the part about the carjacking and the rifle.
I didn't know they could grow watermelon out there.
And intentions and the end game.
Did he give you? Did you learn anything more about that rifle? And I know there'd been, whether his willingness to use it.
No, but we did learn that before he went into that gentleman's house, that he had actually surveilled it. And he had said he had surveilled the perimeter, where he broke the perimeter along with gardens for a little while. And he had also surveilled the residence where he stole the truck at Dairy Farms. He said when he stole that truck, there were actually 2 vehicles that were unsecured there. He decided to take one of them.
All right, I got 5 minutes and then I'm out of here.
And then flee to an area that he knew.
So one thing that as you described this, Deputy Clark, that's standing out to me is that he answered the questions. That he seems like he wanted to.
Guys saw the wrong van. This van probably didn't have any gas in it.
Answer the questions. What was his demeanor like in this interview? I mean, this is a person who was going to be in prison forever, and then he thinks he's going to maybe escape, and now he's back to knowing that.
If I could do things all over again, I'd probably go into law enforcement.
That he's not going anywhere, and yet he seems to have answered all the questions.
That's correct. He was under no duress when he answered the questions. There were professional deputy marshals there, state troopers. He was treated with the utmost professionalism and respect, and he just answered everything that was given to him. He had no hesitation. We found him to be very truthful, and everything that we wanted to know, all the gaps in the investigation, the questions that we had and the public had, we were able to get most of the answers from.
And did he give you any more details about his actual escape?
And this guy's a piece of crap. He killed 2 people, he unalived, and I don't have to say he's innocent until proven guilty. He's already been found guilty for, unaliving his girlfriend right in front of her children. I mean, he's a piece of dog shit.
Those images we saw where he's a crab walking or moonwalking backwards up the wall when he gets.
I mean, I don't think he's a hero at all. I think he's a piece of crap. I was hoping he would resist arrest at some point. That way, wouldn't have to worry about jailing him.
Out.
Sure. So we did not question him about the escape. We were more
Look at this.
concerned.
Like, nobody's watching this guy. Whoops.
Part of the investigation. So
looks like this guy here is almost like a lookout.
So let me ask you one other thing about, you say, the razor.
As soon as he starts climbing here, look at this guy position himself right in front of this column here. And this guy is just not being watched whatsoever. There's obviously a camera on him.
Right? That was in the actual back.
Watch this guy.
And he's saying he didn't have help. I know today that Lieutenant Colonel
He starts to climb.
Bivens confirmed that Cavalcante's sister,
and then that other guy just
right, who
takes
they're
off
now moving ahead with deportation
after he's
procedures,
gone.
did try to assist him about his escape. And when you and I talked last time, you said she was important, but you couldn't disclose anything at the time. But afterwards, you would be able to. And now that of course he is captured, are you able to tell us more about how she was helping him or trying to help him?
Well, what I can tell you was she was an illegal overstay. There were times where she was less than candid with law enforcement officers, and we believe at the other times she was giving us information that was not credible. So rather than pursue obstruction charges, we decided to take her out of the equation, and she was detained by ICE. It just was too much of our time and resources to look into pursuing her criminally. So we just decided to eliminate her from the situation.
So in the final moments, and I'm I'm honing in on something you said that he said in the interview today, that there were 3 times that law enforcement officers.
I kind of knew the other night when I was driving, when they found that heat signature, that they were getting close to him, because I'm pretty sure they can tell the difference between, say, like a deer and a human being. So that heat signature, when I heard that, that was to me. Uh, Once they find that, they can keep an eye on that to see if it moves, probably, and then they can send some people in. But they got to be very structured to how they do that.
Almost stepped on him. You said that they were 7 to 8 yards away. I mean, that is pretty incredible to imagine. And he's lying there hiding. Eventually, when this finally was resolved, when you got him, it was a dog. It was a canine named Yoda that helped capture Cavalcante. Was crucial, in fact, to all of this. Can you tell us more about the dog named Yoda, and what the dog did?
So I can tell you that dog was stationed out of Detroit, Michigan. He is part of the BORTAC tactical team who was stationed out of Michigan. I believe he's 3 years old. He's a Belgian Malinois,
Looks like Seljuk.
and he was just essential
Look at those ears. Beautiful. Good looking dog.
as far as the tracking and the searching, as for numerous other canines that were here. We had other Malinois, we had German Shepherds, we had a Bloodhound. So all these canine resources were utilized from different tactical teams from the area, and they were just an incredible resource.
I mean, it's incredible. So what did Yoda actually do? And I again, to remind everybody that at the time when he was
Yeah, let me at him.
apprehended, and Yoda's instrumental in this, Cavalcante has a rifle, I understand, within his possession, within arm's reach.
That's correct. So upon the BORTAC officers and the Pennsylvania State Police CERT team closing in on that heat signature Lieutenant Colonel Bibbins talked about,
Yes.
one of the BORTAC officers physically observed Cavalcante. At that time, verbal commands were given. Cavalcante attempted to flee by slowly pawing away, and the tactical decision made, I'm assuming by BORTAC and the state police, was to deploy that canine. We knew that he was armed, and using a canine we felt was a reasonable option for upgrading to deadly force. As Yoda moved in on Cavalcante, I believe the only thing showing at the time was Mr. Cavalcante's head, or the crown of his head. He ended up taking a bite on the top of his head, which I know a photo has been going out around with a lot of blood, and that's the reason why the blood was there, because he took a bite towards the top of his head. Now, canine is a bite and hold dog, so there was no holding when you bite someone on the crown of your head. So Cavalcante was again bit in the lower extremity area. Yoda held, and then Mr. Cavalcante submitted to the commands, and he was taken into custody by an approaching CERT team from the Pennsylvania State Police, as well as the BORTAC team.
All right. So that's going to do it for me. I'm out of here. I just wanted to come in here and do a live on that and Hurricane Lee. So I hope everybody has a great day. Hope everybody likes my bird. That's a red-tailed hawk right there, baby. Let me get out of the way here. You can see the red right there. It's actually brown, but people call it a red tail. All right, so everybody have a great day. Thank you for coming by, and I will see you later.